something to make us happy, something to help us stop looking for that next thing. It's just kind of this never-ending cycle. One pastor says it this way. His name is Stephen Furtick. The quote's up on the screen. It says, "We compare our behind the scenes to other people's highlight reels." If you're on social media, you understand this concept, right? You know you. You know your life. You know what your life is like. You know your struggles. You know what you have and what you don't have. You know what you wish you had. And you know that there's a general feeling of, man, I wish I had something more. The area might be different, but you have these moments, these places in your life where, man, I wish I had whatever. And you're scrolling through social media or you're browsing the internet and you begin to see a bunch of people who have what you wish you had. It seems like their life is the way yours should be. And we grow more and more discontent with the life that we live. So what do we do with that, right? We're trying to figure out, as a group, for the rest of this summer, what does it look like to follow Jesus in a world that is totally wrapped up in this idea of comparing with other people, that's totally wrapped up in getting likes and getting interest from people we don't know, like fake intimacy. What does it look like to follow Jesus in a world that's so fake? That's the challenge. Because it's the world we live in, and we can't change that. But we can change how we live in that world. We can change what it looks like for us to interact in this world. Because here's the thing that we try to drive home over and over and over again, is that Jesus wants to bring us life. And I don't know about you, but there are often times where at the end of the day, after I've caught up on all of the different social media platforms, where I don't feel that life. Where I actually feel the opposite of it. I feel worse about my life because I'm playing that game of comparing myself to other people. Seeing their highlight reel and knowing my behind the scenes and feeling like if I just had their life, and then everything would be the way it's supposed to be. But we're trying to tell a different story. We're trying to live a different story that says, you know what? No, what I need most is Jesus. Jesus is really the only thing that I need. Everything else is just secondary. We're trying to share that story. There are three different types of discontent or envy that I think all of us struggle with to some degree or another. Right? To be discontent is just to mean we're not happy. To envy is to think, man, I wish I had what they had. And I think there's three general categories that to some degree or another we all fit into. The first one is material or financial. Right? This is you seeing what other people have. Maybe the financial isn't so much for you because you don't have a job that is bringing home all the income for your family. Like financial, it's kind of abstract more so, but you do understand the material piece. And you do understand that there's a connection between those two. And so you know that if your family you kind of know where you fit. You know if your family makes a lot of money, and you know if your family doesn't make a lot of money, and you know if you fit in the middle. And it's very easy to look at stuff, what people have, the kind of car they drive, the kind of phone they have, the kind of house they live in, the kind of whatever. You can look, and you even right now can think about those people that you constantly are comparing your stuff to. And you do this over and over again. And you know that you're comparing yourself, and you're finding yourself discontent with what you have because of what they have. So that's this material or financial. The second one is relational. You see, you might long for certain kinds of relationships. You really wish you had a group of close friends, people who really knew you. And it's just not there. And you scroll through Instagram or you scroll through Snapchat and you see people having fun with their friends. And you think, gosh, I wish I had that. And you begin to become discontent with your relational situation. Or maybe you really want to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend and you see people who have those and you think, man, if I just had that, I'd be happy. And the more you see other people living that kind of life and having that kind of experience, the more you think to yourself, my life just is not what I want it to be. And you become more and more discontent with your life, in your situation. And the third one is kind of a wrap-up of all of those. It's circumstantial. And you begin to look at your circumstances and the things that are happening in your life, and you begin to say, man, other people have it so much better than me. Not just their stuff and not just their relationship, but everything about their life. They have it so much better than me. And I wish that their life was my life. I wish I could live the life that they're living. And everything around you begins to just kind of be terrible. And you're looking and you're comparing and you become more and more discontent. And you begin to envy more and more what other people have. That's the problem that we live in. I can almost guarantee you that to some degree or another, we all fall into one of those categories. We all find this discontent somewhere in our hearts. And so that's the problem. But what is the solution? What do we do with this? If we're going to follow Jesus in the midst of this world where this is the reality for who we are, what do we do? What is the solution? Well, very cheesy, the solution is Jesus, right? The solution is understanding that when Jesus said he came to give us life, when Jesus came to die for us, what he was offering us was everything that we need. And an invitation to experience those kinds of things that we can't get elsewhere. Jesus talks about this stuff a lot in really weird and vague terms that we go, I don't fully understand what Jesus is talking about. But when Jesus says, I am the living water, this is what he's referring to. I'm the thing that will never go away. I'm the thing that you are always going to be searching for in all these other pursuits. I'm the bread of life. I'm the thing that you need to survive and to be sustained. And I am that thing. And we are looking for it in everyone else's lives. And we are looking for it in all these places that we are finding time and time again are not actually the thing. So I want us to look at a few passages tonight that I think highlight this biblical idea of what do we do to actually solve this problem? What do we do to find contentment in our lives again? Paul was a guy who wrote a lot of the New Testament, and Paul had a really interesting life. You see, he had, right after Jesus died, he had a really sweet life. He was rich, he was powerful, he was like the guy. And then he has this encounter with Jesus, and it changes his life dramatically. And he experiences all sorts of pain and suffering, and he's in jail, and he's beaten, and his life kind of experiences both extremes. And in the book of Philippians, he writes this. Now, you're going to know this verse because we use it out of context all the time, but the context is super important in this verse. He says this in chapter 4. We're going to start in verse 10, just so we get the whole thing. It says, I rejoice greatly in the Lord that at last you renewed your concern for me. Indeed, you were concerned, but you had no opportunity to show it. I'm not saying this because I'm in need. Listen to what he says. For I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. See, that's what we're looking for, right? We're looking for contentment. Paul says, I've learned how to do that. He says, I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or want. And here's the verse you know. I can do all this through through him who gives me strength. You see, most of you probably just hear verse 13. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. So now I can lift a really heavy weight. Or an athlete will win a championship. Well, Philippians 4:13. You're like, cool, but do you understand what Paul's saying here? He's saying, listen, I've learned about life in all circumstances, and I've learned how to be content in all circumstances. And you want to know how you become content? Is you learn that Jesus is all you need. You learn that Jesus is the one who gives you the strength to get through whatever it is that you're going through. Your family may be just having a great time right now. You're going to go on vacations, and you're wealthy, and you live in a stupid big house, and life is good. That's because of Jesus. And your family may be going through just hell right now. And your parents may be getting a divorce. You can't get along with your sisters. You don't know where your food's coming from. Like, life is hard right now. And Jesus says, I'm going to give you the strength to get through it. You see, in all situations, if you want to learn how to be content, Paul says, you learn to focus on Jesus in all of it. And you learn to trust that he has either brought you to that place or will bring you through that place. That's how you learn to be content. So you're like, okay, that's great. But that doesn't necessarily really help me much. Because that doesn't give me practical, here's how to do it type advice. Well, I want you to understand, again, over and over and over again, you can search all you want for stuff that will fill that hole. Funny story. So there was this old Christian song. Has any of you ever seen Bruce Almighty? Okay, so it's in that movie, and it's this part where he's like kind of figuring it out. He's watching Jennifer Aniston, like without him, he's sad. He's like trying to figure out his life. And there's the song. I think the song is called "God-Shaped Hole." Okay, there's a God-shaped hole in all of us. For the longest time, I totally misheard those lyrics and thought it was God Chateau. Like I thought it was French, like a little house for God in art. It's not. It's God-shaped hole. But the writer of Ecclesiastes kind of gives us this idea, like this is what is happening. There's a God-shaped hole in all of us. And in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, he points to this and he says, listen, God has set eternity in the hearts of people. God has set eternity in the hearts of people. So you can look for stuff all you want, but it's meaningless. We talk about it's hevel. It seems like it's there. It seems like you can get it, but it's not really there. You can pursue it, but eventually you're going to find like it's not actually going to fill what you're looking for. But eternity, God is the thing that you are searching for. So how do we find contentment? How do we battle envy? One, you can't do it on your own. Okay, this is only going to happen through the strength of Christ. This isn't a pull yourself up by the bootstraps and figure it out kind of thing. This is a fix your eyes on Jesus and let him give you the strength to fight this battle. Okay, so here's what we're going to look at. First thing we need to do if we want to battle is we have to kill comparisons. We have to kill comparisons. Turn to 2 Corinthians chapter 10. 2 Corinthians chapter 10. Paul, again, is talking about his ministry and how he has gotten to where he is. And he says this in verse 12. We do not dare to classify or compare ourselves with some who commend themselves. When they measure themselves by themselves and compare themselves with themselves, they're not wise. So Paul's saying it is foolish to compare yourself with other people. It does not bring you life. It does not help you. It's not going to get you to where you want to be if you are constantly comparing yourself to other people. So don't waste your time with it. James is the half-brother of Jesus, and in chapter 3, verses 14 through 16, he says this. It says, but if you harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition in your heart, do not boast about it or deny the truth. Such wisdom does not come from heaven, but is earthly, unspiritual, and demonic. For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you will find disorder and every evil practice. So we've talked about this a lot as we've talked about what is God trying to do, right? As soon as Adam and Eve sinned, they threw the whole world into chaos and disorder. And God is trying to point us back toward life and trying to restore things and bring order and beauty and goodness. And what James is saying is that when we are selfish, when we have envy, what we are doing is we are bringing disorder back into our world. We are actively undoing what God is trying to do. And he says it's not worth it. Don't waste your time with it. You see, we do this a lot. How much time, you're not going to answer this out loud, but how much time do you waste comparing yourself to other people? When you show up on a Thursday night, how much of the first minutes that you're here are you comparing what you are wearing to what other people are wearing? How much of your time is spent comparing yourself to other people? How much life does that bring you? How much does it make you feel better about yourself? How long does it make you feel better about yourself? Or how quick does it make you feel terrible about yourself? The Bible is saying, don't waste your time with it. It's not leading you to life. There may be things that you need to give up in order to battle this. Maybe you need to unfollow certain people on social media because you know that every time you see them pop up in your feed, you're like, there it is again. There's that comparison. There's me comparing my life to their life. There's me comparing my stuff to their stuff. There's me comparing my relationships to their relationships. And so I'm going to stop following them so that I can experience life. Maybe that's everybody you follow and you just need to throw your phone out the window. Don't do that. That's expensive. But maybe you need to take some time away from social media in order to let you experience life without it. That's up to you. But are there places where you can do something to battle envy, to give up something to battle envy, and then you practice that over and over and over again? Because you may win that battle one day, but guess what? Tomorrow comes. And if it's not a continual thing, you will find yourself falling back into it. And that is not going to point you to Jesus. It's going to rob you of joy. The second thing, celebrate the success of other people. That one sucks, right? How many of you, is it just so hard to celebrate the success of other people? Because you know that you don't have their success, and if you can't have their success, then you don't want to celebrate. This is far more common than we'd like to admit. And it may not be your friends. You may be fine celebrating them. But think about those people that you compare yourself to, and then they're successful. How's that feel? Sucks, right? This is comparison and envy. And one of the best ways to combat that is you say, you know what? I'm going to celebrate it when other people are successful. Because that means that God has chosen to bless that person. I'm going to choose to celebrate when the green team wins. I'm going to choose to celebrate the success of others because I know that when I don't, I begin to harbor bitterness and envy and things that are not leading me or them to Jesus. A really easy way for you to kind of diagnose if this is you or not. Just think of a person you don't really love, or you have a hard time comparing yourself to, and ask the question, would I be upset if God blessed them more than He blessed me? Would I be upset if God blessed that person more than He blessed me? That highlights and exposes a lot of things. There are people in my life that I can even think of. If I saw them succeed in a certain area, it would be very hard for me to celebrate that success. I could maybe but God is bigger than all of that. And I have to ask myself this question: is my life more about me than it is about Jesus? Is my life more about me and my success and God blessing me and me? Or is it about something bigger than me? Because when I'm discontent, I can't see other people. And I certainly can't see other people in light of who God made them to be. I become so inward focused on me that I miss what God is up to in the lives of other people. And so to combat that, I want to celebrate when other people are successful. They may be a huge, gigantic jerk. But it's not my place to judge them. Right? That I'm going to let God do that. I'm going to trust that God knows what He's doing, and I'm going to say, you know what? Good for you. I'm going to be thankful that God has blessed me in certain ways. I'm going to be thankful that God has blessed you in certain ways. The last one is this: cultivate gratitude. Cultivate gratitude. What does that mean? Cultivate is a farming word. It's like when you prepare the soil to be able to actually produce something. So we want to prepare ourselves to be able to produce gratitude. Proverbs chapter 15, verse 15, highlights this idea. It says this: all the days of the oppressed are wretched, but the cheerful heart has a continual feast. All the days of the oppressed are wretched, but those who are blessed have it. Their heart is like a continual feast. What does that mean, Proverbs? That's weird. It means you will find what you're looking for. Have you ever been around somebody or been somebody who's like, today's going to be terrible? Or something bad happens at the very beginning, you're like, oh, it's going to be that kind of day today. And then you have decided that the rest of your day is going to suck because of that thing that happened at the beginning. Have you ever done that? Yes. Okay, that is the first part of this verse. It is saying, listen, you will find what you are looking for. But for people who have a heart that is cultivated for gratitude, they can find things to be thankful for. It doesn't matter what's happening in the life of somebody else. They can be killing it. They can be doing so good and God is blessing them. But that doesn't take away from what God is doing in my life. It doesn't take away from the fact that God has blessed me in certain ways. In a lot of ways. That if I'm so focused on somebody else and what God's doing in their life, that I miss completely what He's doing in my life. And so Proverbs would say, hey, listen, you're going to find what you're looking for. If you want your life to be terrible, you will find plenty of reasons for your life to be terrible. But if you want to see the goodness of God, if you look for it, you will find plenty of places where God is pouring out love and goodness and blessing into your life. It may not be huge, but if you look for it, you'll find it. In the friendships, in the laughter, in the good times, and sometimes even in the bad times. You'll see God is at work and God is good in the midst of that. You will find what you are looking for. Another pastor put this kind of description of envy this way. He says, envy is resenting God's goodness in other people's lives and ignoring God's goodness in your own life. Envy is resenting God's goodness in other people's lives and ignoring God's goodness in your own life. And so here's a question that I want you to kind of wrestle with tonight. If we were able to kill comparisons, if we were able to do these things, how much better would we be at pointing people to Jesus? If we could show people that we're not going to play that comparison game. You can come and you can try and make me feel bad about myself with telling you about how good your life is. That's not going to affect me. Because I'm going to celebrate what God is doing in your life. I'm not going to let it impact me. I'm going to celebrate you. what would that do to the way that they choose to interact with you? If they know it's not going to get any sort of reaction from you, they're probably going to stop. How can we show Jesus to people? By saying we're not going to play that game. We're not going to play the game of social media. We're not going to play that. That's not who we are. We follow Jesus because that's where life is found. And we want to point you to that life. We want you to experience that life. You see, that's why we're here. That's that whole idea of like being a city on a hill, being different, contrasting from the world around you, is by not playing all the games that everybody else plays. And social media is a huge, stinking game. I know like one person on social media who's like real. And it's uncomfortable. You're like, oh, I don't know that I want to see all of that. But we need to see it for what it is. It's a game. And we're all pawns in it. Like, we just bought in. Like, yep, here we go. I'm going to be authentic by showing you my highlights. Like, right there, there's nothing about social media, but we invest so much of our heart into it. And Jesus comes along and says, guys, it's not worth it. It's not worth the pain. It's not worth the comparison. It's not worth the frustration. It's not worth any of that. Because if you knew everything about that person, you would be a whole lot less likely to compare yourself to them. You're all broken. We're all broken. I'm just as broken as you are. And we're all trying to put on a front and compare, and all. It's pointless. And so we come to this point where Jesus says, listen, I'm all you need. I am all that you need. And we have that decision. Am I going to trust that? Am I going to remember that Jesus is actually all that I need? Or am I going to continue to play the game? Jesus wants you to find contentment. He doesn't want you to constantly be looking at other things and other places to find it. He's saying, I'm right here. Come to me, and you will find everything that you need. Let's pray. Father, it is super easy to look in 1,000 places to find happiness. And it's super easy to just continue to play the game that our culture wants us to play. And like so many other times, you come alongside us gently and you say, is it worth it? Are you really enjoying this? Are you enjoying comparing yourself to other people? Are you enjoying trying to live up to everybody's expectations? You're enjoying the front and the fakeness of it all. I pray that tonight you would help us to see that you have something so much better for us. That you want us to experience life. And you want us to experience life that isn't centered on all that stuff, but it's centered on you. It's centered on who you are and what you've done, and the fact that we don't have to earn your approval. You freely give it to us. So I pray that you'd help us to change our behavior in the ways that will lead us to life. That we would trust that that's actually what you want to do. God, I pray you surround us with people that can speak hard truths into our life about how we interact with people, how we pursue certain things, that can see things that we can't see. And I pray that we together would point people to life in you. We love you. We pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. For small groups tonight, one small change.